Hello and welcome around to my house. Now I'm heading into the kitchen where I'm getting ready to rustle up another stunning feast of delicious food for an award-winning comedian who has laughed, drank and ate his way around some of the most dangerous places on the planet. Hampshire should be okay then. Let's get inside and get cooking.
Morning. Are you coming in then?
Good morning, and what a show we've got lined up for you today. I'll be joined throughout the morning by trigger-happy TV star Dom Joly will be here. And I'll be making a stop off in South Wales on the latest leg of my epic food adventures. It's the Rangoon sisters will be here for the very first time. They'll be dropping by with a recipe that I'm looking forward to seeing. And don't miss this week's little masterclass where I'll be teaching you everything you want to know about leeks in two amazing little dishes. And if that wasn't enough for you, I'm here with one of Yorkshire's most famous sons and a chef who's truly a legend in his own lunchtime. It's Mr. Brian Turner. You all right, Dad? How are you doing?
I'm all right, but wait till I get you home, lad. You'll know about it. You'll know about it.
Now, we're going to kick things off today with a recipe for salt-baked celeriac and beetroot salad. So it's going to be served with these amazing lettuces we're going to get on in a minute, but salt-baked vegetables. We've got some beautiful beetroot. I mean, absolutely perfect for this time of year. Celeriac I absolutely love, but beetroot, when it's cooked like this, is really simple. You start off, you make a meringue, basically. So egg whites, but rather than use sugar, we use salt. Now, there's different ways of salt baking. You can then take salt baking and you make a pastry with it. Yeah. So you can make pastry with flour and salt, table salt, equal quantities of each, mixed together with a bit of water. Create a pastry, put it over the top of the veg and simply cook it. You can do it like this. This would be normally the sort of way that you would cook with fish, salt-baked fish with sea bass and stuff like that, which is really, really nice. But I think this is just a simple way to do it. And one that doesn't matter about it colouring in the oven. You're not making a meringue like a pavlova. You're just making a simple little whipped egg white like that. So you're whipping up the egg whites, which I've got in here, and then we can flavour this with a little bit of thyme. Now, because we're not going to eat this, the thyme we can put in it like that. You don't need to strip it all off from the leaf. That can just sit in there. Just an additional flavour. You can use things like rosemary, which is really good. And then you've got your salt.
Now that's old-fashioned table salt, isn't it? Not modern sea salt.
Not modern sea salt. No, just table salt. And you can see from the amount of salt that you're putting in, you're not eating this. Yeah. So you want to put the salt in. Whip this all up. And that's what we end up with. Just a simple mixture. Right? Sorry, Brian, chucking it everywhere.
All right, son.
And then we got our beetroot. Now, like I said, I've done it with celeriac as well, but you simply just take the beetroot like this, take your salt, and just cover it over.
It is a very simplistic way, and it does add a different flavour, and that's the main thing. But
amazing taste from it as well.
You've got to start with a good product to commence with, and then it just gets better. Yeah,
I think what I love about this, like I said, you can roast it, but salt baking it is just delicious. So you make sure it's all covered over, like that, and then set the oven about 150, 160. This needs to cook for about 45 minutes to an hour, depending on the size of the beetroot. And what you end up with, once it's been in the oven, I'm not putting it in that oven because it'll burn, but we end up with this bit here. And what we end up with, if we break this apart, look, you've got the cooked beetroots inside. So you open this up and you've got this amazing beetroot in there, cooked in the skins, because you need the skins as well. You discard this, don't use it. And celeriac is exactly the same way. Now, once it's made, rather than have it straight away, it's actually better if you let it cool down in the salt. Sometimes chefs say overnight as well, like that, it just gets better and better and better. But discard that. Do not serve that to your guests.
Unless you don't like them.
Well, they can have a go, exactly. They might not come back.
I can think of one or two I'd like to serve it.
Exactly. But we've got a nice little bit of celeriac over there, a nice little bit of beetroot. Now, I'm going to do this wonderful little salad with this. The base of the salad is this. We've got some sour cream that I put in this sort of little bit of muslin cloth over here, tea towel, something like that. You leave it overnight, dripping in the fridge. the liquid comes out of it, and you end up with this amazing soft, almost like cream cheese.
Yeah, yeah.
And the dressing, we're going to add a little bit of elderflower cordial into there, and I'm going to make a nice little vinaigrette. We're going to do toasted pumpkin seeds. But all this is with this amazing salad that I've got in front of me over here. So hopefully, by the power of the internet, we can go live to central London. You won't believe it looking at this, but this is genuinely central London, where Sebastian Sainsbury's here from crate to plate, and going to explain this extraordinary way to grow produce in these shipping containers. Sebastian, this is amazing. Thank you for being a part of this.
Good morning, James. Thank you for having me. And thank you for showcasing our lettuce. We're very proud of it.
It is amazing. So tell me how this all started. It didn't start in London. Where did the idea come across, and how did it start? Why did you come up with this?
Well, it started when in my former lifetime as a banker in the city, when I was doing some research on food security and where our food comes from, and the population growth. We need to increase our food production by over 80% to meet a growing world population. So we started doing some research. I met a biotechnologist. We bought our first hydroponic farm in December 2015 and spent the next 4 years doing research and development to see what types of produce grew well in this environment. And in March, 3 days after the lockdown last year, we installed our first farms in London, and we now have 7 of them, with a further 5 coming in the first quarter of 2022. So
I mean, it looks spectacular. This is basically in a shipping container. Am I right? This is the basic of what you are in at the moment.
It's a repurposed 40-foot shipping container that has been outfitted with a hydroponic growing system. That means that we grow in water, no soil, and we refer to it as controlled environment agriculture. So every aspect of the plant's growth is monitored and remotely monitored and on a day-to-day basis.
And you say remotely monitored because all these this system behind you is all plugged into Wi-Fi. Everything's on your phone. It's all computerized. Tell everybody how it works, because how can you grow stuff in the wall that you're doing there without soil? How does it work?
So we have LED lights that are on for 16 hours in a 24-hour period, and this light spectrum is replicated as if it was the sun. The plants are fed on a drip and drain system. So the water, also one of our biggest positives is we use 96% less water than traditional farming, because when you pour water into the soil absorbs a lot of it, whereas here the water is directed into the plants and the roots of the plants. And I could show you one of our seedlings whilst we're here. I don't know if you can see that, but there you can see the propagation 2 weeks after a seed was planted. There's been some root development. And once that root development has occurred, we will move it into the towers you see behind me. And we then have watering cycles depending on whether the plants are in day or night. Currently, they're in their night mode. So just some white lights, which are the work lights. And for about 16 hours from 3 p.m. in the afternoon, we'll have these bright red and blue LED lights that will come on and that will have different effects on the plants to help the color, the taste, the growth, and the development of the roots. The development of the roots is obviously very important. Tell
me, I've got one of your plants here. Do they take the same time to grow as in the traditional method, or is it a quicker process?
Currently, it takes the same amount of time to grow. It's just we have 2 grow areas. So we have a propagation area where a lettuce will spend 2 weeks from seed to seedling. And then it'll be moved into the towers, where it will grow for between 4 and 6 weeks, depending on the size of the lettuce that the customer has asked us to grow.
The other thing that I thought was intriguing is, why did you choose lettuces as opposed to tomatoes, as opposed to fruits, vegetables? What is it about lettuce or salads that makes it work so well?
Well, we actually grow a whole variety of leafy greens. So this is a lettuce farm, and each farm has its own type of varieties of produce growing. So we have a herb farm. Right. We have a leafy green farm where you'll see both the Boricole kale and the Toscano kale that you have in front of you. The basil grows in a separate farm as well because, as I'm sure you know...
The basil, by the way, is amazing. I've got handfuls of it over here. I mean, I grew a basil in the greenhouse. It's just as good that you get stuff growing in the greenhouse, isn't it? But obviously, like I say, a lot less water. It's tremendous.
A lot less water. And listen, we shipped this over to you yesterday, but the restaurants and the customers that we delivered to their homes, restaurants typically get our produce within 4 to 6 hours of harvest.
And one thing I'm intrigued about, while we're going to see you go down the aisle in a minute, but while you're wandering down the aisle, tell me about this, because this is called, I've seen this before. Wasn't it called Miner's lettuce? Miner's lettuce.
Can I have a taste?
It's Claytonia is the proper name, but it's otherwise referred to as Miner's lettuce. It's something that a couple of the chefs that we work with have asked us to trial and to grow for them. It's not yet fully grown, but I got you the most mature plants I could find. This is typically a forage product. A lot of American chefs, particularly in California, use this. It's foraged in Northern California, but we do find some here in the UK in the marshes.
Can you take us for a little wander down what's happening down this road? Is that right? Meanwhile, I'm just going to recap what we've got on here. So I've got my beetroot over here. We've got celeriac. I've made a little simple dressing. So I've got a cream dressing over here, which is the sour cream that we just put over the top. And the sour cream with the salt baked, that combination works so well. Just a little bit of this over the top. But this is just with elderflower cordial over in here. But before I get into the lettuce, I just want to say, I'm just going to take a little crunch in here. I'm going to take some of these pumpkin seeds and just roast off a few pumpkin seeds with a little bit of oil over the top over here. Now, I can see you're gobsmacked with what's happening over here. It's amazing, isn't it?
Oh, it is.
Modern technology.
Does the shelf life vary from stuff that's been grown in the traditional way?
Well, in the traditional way, in that, about 40 weeks of the year, we import 85% of our fresh produce in this country.
Right.
British farmers supply our lettuces about 10 weeks of the year.
Yeah.
But we also deliver it as a living organism, so with the roots that I showed you originally.
Yeah.
So a lot of our customers have found that they've not had to throw away anything since we started delivering to them.
So this is definitely a way forward. It certainly is. The planet's warming up. I mean, this would be... I know you mentioned the fact you worked in the city. This is a great business, really. I mean, you've taken a look at this because this particularly around the world is starting to heat up. Places that can't get water. I mean, this could be the alternative. A great option for communities.
Well, definitely is one of the alternatives with climate change, and that goes for both heat and water. This summer we had, I think we had 65, 70% of the normal sunshine we would get in a year. And we had a lot of rain, and the rain flooded the fields. And the roots of those plants got flooded, got no oxygen, and so we lost a lot of produce. So climate change has a huge impact. And these farms are completely unaffected by climate change. Where we're standing right now, we produce 575 full heads of lettuce a week, every single week, irrespective of what's happening outside.
I absolutely love it. And next time I'm in London, I'm going to give you a ring and come and have a look for myself. It's amazing. And best of luck with everything. Best of luck with it.
Good luck. You deserve it. Well done, sir.
Thank you very much. You're welcome anytime.
It's brilliant. How cool is that? It's fantastic.
That's amazing.
Thank you so much for your time.
It's a pleasure. Good luck with everything. So, look, we've got on here, we've got our pumpkin seeds, which I've toasted as well. And we just put it over there. Like you say, the amazing thing about this lettuce as chefs, you just go through the lettuce. Sometimes you've got to throw half of it away. It's crazy, absolutely crazy. And the great thing about it is, because there's no soil, you don't have to wash it.
Well, the beauty, because they've got the root on the bottom here, so if you decide for some reason you've ordered too much, it'll last till tomorrow, I'm sure, extra days, because it's still intact.
Absolutely. I'm just going to run through what I've got on here. So we put the dressing on it. I've made a nice little vinaigrette. We've got a touch of mustard, a little bit of white wine vinegar, a little bit of just normal veg oil. So I don't use olive oil to make a French-style dressing. No egg yolk. You can put a little bit of water in there if you want. So a nice little salad using hydroponics lettuce. Now you know where it's made. Right, Brian, there you go.
Are you not having any?
I'll have a little bit once you go.
Thank goodness for that.
But it tastes really nice. I love a salt-baked celeriac and salt-baked beetroot. But the salad, tasty? Happy with that?
Have I stopped talking?
Yeah, no, he's happy. Right, still to come. He'll be cooking for us a little bit later. And I'll be chatting to Dom Joly as well. I'm looking forward to that. But don't go anywhere, because after the break, Brian and I will be trying to answer some of your culinary questions. I'll see you in a minute. Welcome back. Now, I'll be giving you a masterclass in Leeks and a little bit later, and I'll be chatting to Dom Joly very shortly. But first, I'm here in the kitchen with Mr. Brian Turner. The two of us are hopefully going to have a go at answering some of your cooking questions. Hopefully. Not personal questions, that's during the week, on this morning. Cooking questions is on a Saturday, hopefully. So we should be joined on the line by Brad and Jules from Middlesbrough. Good morning to you guys.
Morning, James.
Morning.
How are you doing? Now, interesting careers you both had. One a police officer, one working on oil rigs.
That's true, yeah.
And you obviously love cooking as well, because quite an interesting question you got for us then. Fire away.
It is, yes. I want to learn how to shuck oysters properly.
Yeah.
Because when I try it, I nearly always end up eating a gravel path.
Okay, right, okay. So have you got your weapon of choice in front of you?
No, not really. I have two. One was bought and one's a filleting knife.
Right.
What?
Right, I tried to think. Go on. Tell me the one that was bought. Who bought you this?
This is the one that was bought. My Aunt Margie bought me this. So there's a lovely lady who lives in Gisborough in a little stone cottage. She bought me this and she bought me a book.
Right.
And the book says, don't use these.
The book's right.
What about the other thing that you use?
Right. The other one is I do a lot of fly fishing and I like to eat what I catch. So.
No, you don't want to use it. No. Put that away. That's for filleting fish. Definitely. Put that definitely away. What you need, first of all, I mean, we've got a selection of things in front of us over here. Ideally, you can have the one with the guard, which is here. Yeah. They come in different sort of appearances. I would more or less go for this sort of stuff rather than the sort of that diamond pointed one or the pyramid pointed one that you've got there in your house. I would go for this kind of stuff. It's a rubberized, so you can get them even more rubberized, so they don't slip in your hands. And the guard is quite important, but they put it in there, and the guard is important. But the thing about the most important bit I find is not this; it's this.
Exactly.
It's the tea towel and proper thickness tea towel. And when you see the people opening them, sometimes they've got mesh gloves.
They're just like butchers, and actually, for health and safety, they'll demand that they have a proper protection.
Yeah, and we haven't got any of that. We've just got a cloth now, haven't we?
Yeah, but we're going to do it without a safety net.
Okay.
Now, can I just? Because
you used to be the world champion, didn't you? At this?
I'm going to smack you if you're not careful. For many a year, I compared...
In 1832...
That was just before you were born, lad. No, but actually, for many a year, I used to compare the British Oyster Opening Championships, and the winner went to Galway to challenge for the World Championship. And we have a couple of world champions in this country. Okay. They've done a great job.
So you must have learnt a thing or two over the years.
I was busy talking,
right, yes.
And I haven't opened an oyster, shucked an oyster for ages. I remember going to Louisiana to see Tabasco and seeing these places, and they had a million.
Stop talking. The thing is with this gentleman over here, my dad, you ask him one question, it just keeps going. It's like a Christmas story.
Yeah, but they don't really. I'm paid by the answer, so it's all right. I'm now going well there.
So you've got the oyster itself. Now there's two main different types. You've got this one that we've got in here, and the natives. The natives are a sort of a flatter, circular oyster, slightly different in appearance. Look same in terms of the colour, but they're rounder and flatter.
Easier to open.
A lot easier to open. And they come in... The thing is about oysters, they're judged on numbers. So you buy them like you do prawns, don't you?
Yeah.
Number 8s, number 4s, number 2s. It's all done to the size of them. That's the key to it. So with the oyster itself, you've got a flat side. Always on an oyster, you've got a flat side and you've got a curved side. Flat-ish on these ones. Much more on a native, it's definitely more flat. So the hinge part of the oyster, the bit that opens up, is this part here. Now, some people will go in that hinge and try to break the hinge this way. Other people will go in on the side and open it and slide the knife down. The key to this is where the knife goes, you go in along the flat side of the shell, and a bit like a scallop, as you open it, you scrape it along the top. What you don't want to be doing is dragging the knife in and splitting the oyster in the middle. So, two things you've got to do. The oyster is stuck to either side of the shell, but mainly to the flat side. So you need to loosen this little muscle that sticks the oyster to the flat side, plus at the same time not lose the juice that's in there.
Correct.
To which I've explained, Brian will now show you how to open one.
Is there a term for being stitched up?
Stitched up.
Stitched up.
It's a stereotypical term. It's been around for years.
Right, so, as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to actually put it in just about the centre where the hinge is, as you said. I've got the glove, hopefully looking after me here, and then twist it.
Twist.
So, yeah, it goes in where the hinge is. Put your knife in and twist. And
I've twisted now,
see it's in there now. I'll just show you on my one. So, as you're going in, if you twist that end bit, you can see I've lifted it up now. See that?
Yeah.
So, it's lifted up. I can actually lose this cloth now. But you can see I've gone in here, I've twisted it, and this is now loosened off. If we scrape this, what's going to happen is the top's going to come off.
Bring that bowl over, Chef, because you're losing some of the juice.
Sorry.
And is there a bowl for me anyway?
No, there isn't. There.
Okay.
So then what we have is the oyster. Now, what you've got to make sure is none of the shell's gone in. So you clean out the top bit. But the most important bit of this, before you actually serve it, is to turn the oyster over. So there's a little membrane that's attached to this bit and the bottom bit. And the bottom bit, you just need to loosen it there.
Right.
And then you turn the oyster over.
We turn it over?
Yeah, classically, you would turn it over. So you can see now you've got the plump side. I'll turn that over, there. See that? Yeah. Now it's nice for appearance, nice and plump, but you try and keep as much as the seawater, the liquid inside, and then classically, on a little bit of seaweed or a little bit of salt. Over to you, Brian.
So, well, I've got the same. I've tweaked it there, and I'm now going to... I'm just releasing it towards... And I'm going to take that off. So you can see that's joined. Now, as you quite rightly say, they should be turned to eat, but not everybody does. So it looks nice like that, but some restaurants don't turn them, so you have to turn them yourself. But it is, before you actually eat them, it has to be turned. So I'm going to quickly turn mine over. That's looking good, and I've got plenty of juice in there.
So just show you another one. This is the oyster itself. You can go in on the side. So where the join is, that we got it there, you take the knife and you kind of point it in there, wiggle it around, and then you twist the knife again. But rather than go all the way in, as soon as you go in, twist the knife and it opens up that sort of hinge. Slide the knife across. You can see it's stuck to both sides. See that?
Yeah.
So as you slide it across... like that slides across, you take the lid off, you do the same thing again, you turn it over. Now, what you serve with it is entirely up to you. Purists say they should be just eaten like this with a little bit of lemon. Other people will say a little bit of diced shallot with a little bit of red wine vinegar is another one. And get good red wine vinegar as well, that's what you want. But diced shallot, finely diced, mixed with red wine vinegar, you put that on it. Some people put herbs, a little bit of chives on it, a little bit of parsley. Purists say, like I said, a little bit of lemon, and even purists say just eat it as they are. But you can actually cook these as they are, because I know you're a big barbecue lover as well. You put those on the coals on the barbecue. There's a great thing called a Rockefeller Oyster, which is wonderful, isn't it, really?
Absolutely, yeah.
Which is a crumb with... I put watercress in mine. I don't know what you put in it with the Rockefeller Oyster. You can coat it over the top with breadcrumbs and things like blended watercress and parsley and put that on the top. It tastes amazing, but... Brian's just cracking on. Hopefully, that's all right.
I think that people have to be, try and find the knife that suits you.
Yeah,
and if one doesn't suit you, don't get it. This goes without saying. You've got to have something nice and strong there. Yeah.
This is as important as the knife, and you can get as fancy knives as you want. These range from a few quid. This was brought to me by a kind gentleman by the name of Mr. Richard Corrigan. He got me this for Christmas.
And he's a great oyster man.
And he's the master at oysters at Bentley's, but they've got this beautiful sort of oyster knife over here. But you can see a lot of them don't come with a guard. I prefer the ones without a guard. It's entirely up to you, but the most important bit is this.
But you can progress. Get one with a guard to start with, and when you're feeling a bit more confident, and at the end of the day, it is about confidence. See, there's another one that's ready there. Okay. I've surprised myself how well I've done there.
I've surprised yourself, actually, to be honest with you. Right, I think you need to sit down for that. Have a sit down and a glass of wine after that. There you go.
I might just have an oyster later on.
Sit down. Hopefully that's all right. And put that other knife down. Use that for filleting fish.
Yeah, it was the twist. It was the twist that's come as a bit of a revelation there, James.
Twist is the key. Yeah, follow the knife at the top, loosen that top bit. Remember, there's a membrane underneath, and turn the oyster over. There you go.
It's easy to remember because James Martin's a big twister.
Thank you very much for that.
Thank you very much, James. Thank you, Brian.
It is like cooking with your dad. It's unbelievable. Right, still to come, I'll be giving you a masterclass in leeks, and Brian and the Rangoon sisters will be cooking for us for the very, very first time. But don't go anywhere, because after the break, I'm joined in the house by Dom Joly. I'll see you in a minute. Welcome back. Now, I'll be giving you a little masterclass in leeks a touch later, but first, I'm here with a comedian who rose to fame as the creator of the worldwide hit Trigger Happy TV. Remember that? Before making himself known on the globe-trotting stage as an adventurer. Please welcome to the house, Dom Joly! Big love for you in the house, boss.
Well, it's just thrilling, isn't it? This is great. I'm already salivating. It's amazing.
And I'm going to cook for you. So you're a big fan of cauliflower cheese.
Yeah.
And steak. So we're going to do steak. Would you like rare, medium-ish, medium rare-ish?
Sort of more rare than medium.
Okay,
but yeah.
Sounds good. So we're going to do a sirloin steak with a nice little bit of cauliflower. But I'm going to roast the cauliflower off, make a simple little sauce. The sauce itself, what we're going to start off with, is the way I make the sauce. Is I make it classically, first of all, with a bechamel. So a bechamel is always milk, but with the addition of this. This is the vital important bit that people forget. Ooh. It's an onion cloute. So an onion cloute is a thing that you were brought up with at catering college. It's onion studded with cloves and bay leaf.
So that's like a bread sauce base.
Yes. So
I never do that with that.
So this is the basis of a classic sort of sauce that I would do. So
what's it called? Cloute?
Onion cloute. Is that
C-L-O-U-T-E.
That's it. That goes in there.
And that's just for your white sauce?
Ah, yes, I think. Yeah, that's for would be classically for my white sauces that I would
I never do that. Right,
so that's going to go in there. We're going to bring that to the boil, let that sort of gently infuse. Meanwhile, I've got a pan over here for my steak, and I'm going to prepare this sort of cauliflower, because I'm going to roast this cauliflower off, including the green bits as well. So you chop these into sort of decent-sized florets, because instead of sort of parboiling the cauliflower, I'm going to roast it. It takes a better flavour, I think, to go with it.
I love the green bit. I love the leaves.
I love the green bit as well in cauliflower cheese. I love it. So, I mean, first of all, what a career. As a storyteller, as an adventurer, I mean, a bit of everything, comedy and everything. I suppose I've got to start at the beginning. Yeah. When you were growing up as a kid. Because Lebanon, tell us about growing up in Lebanon and that and Britain and moving and...
Well, I think growing up in Lebanon kind of explains a lot of why I do a lot of confusing things, because it's a confusing place. So I grew up in Lebanon because my parents lived there, obviously, but I was an English family, and we'd been there for 2 generations for reasons that are way too complicated to explain, but we were there. And it was, when I was a tiny kid, Lebanon was pretty much the perfect place in the world. It was called Switzerland of the Middle East. It was like living in south of France, pine trees. Beirut was amazing, food's incredible, skiing an hour away, beach an hour away. And then just as I got to an age where I was going to enjoy it, the whole place just exploded, civil war. And so I grew up in a really weird kind of schizophrenic life where half my school holidays I was in a civil war, and then I'd be at a boarding school in England for school, and both were like equally weird.
Isn't it right that you went to school with Bin Laden?
You are. Well, you're ruining my best story in my tour, but I will tell it now. Yeah. Bang, it's gone.
It's out there now.
It's one of my big punchlines. But yeah, it is. I went back to a documentary on Lebanon after Trigger Happy. And I went back, and I was actually supposed to be going on a road trip into Syria, because ironically, we used to go to Syria to get a bit of peace and quiet when the war was kicking off. So that sounds weird. And when we got there, the director said, before we go off to Syria, it might be nice to see where you went to school. You know, it'd be weird you going to school in the middle of a civil war. And I went to this school that was a Quaker high school above Beirut. I don't know why Quakers were there, but Quakers from Darlington set this school up in 1860.
Quakers from Darlington?
I don't know what they were doing up there. So anyway, I go to this school and I'm there for a couple of years, and then I get sent off to boarding school because the war gets too bad. So when I go back, we're filming around the school, and the headmistress comes out. No one's asked permission. We thought they had. She goes crazy, starts screaming. She goes, "What are you filming here for?" And I go, "Well, I'm an old boy, used to go to school here." She goes, "Who cares?" And I go, "Well, you know, to be fair, I'm probably one of the most famous old boys here." And she goes, "Oh, please." So I got a bit miffed. I was like, "Really? Who's better than me?" And she goes, "Osama bin Laden." I was like, "Oh, OK, yeah." and it turned out when I was 6 and he was 18, we were at school together for 1 year. So I desperately tried to find a school photo with me and him in it, but weirdly...
And you desperately tried to keep that quiet for your tour, which we're going to talk about now.
It doesn't matter.
And I've kind of ruined it, really.
But the best thing is they're a Quaker school. Like, Quakers are famous for pacifism. So, like, a bigger failure of the Quaker educational system than me and Osama bin Laden. It's difficult to find, but yeah.
Oh, and I've got to mention the tour as well, because the tour you kind of did pre-COVID.
Yeah.
And this is kind of bit that you're having to pick up on afterwards. But it's a monster tour, this, that you're doing.
It's a monster tour, and the tour's called Dom Joly's Holiday Snaps, because essentially what the tour is, because I think a lot of people... I don't do live stuff. I'm not a stand-up, never done stuff like that. And so I think when people see that I'm doing something live, I don't know what goes through their heads, but I start the show saying, look, I'm not dressed as a squirrel, there's no mobile phone here, because I don't think they know what to do. And really, the whole point of the show is to explain how I went from bloke dressed as a squirrel shouting to a big mobile phone to skiing in Iran, monster hunting in the Congo, and taking a coach trip around North Korea. To me, it all makes sense. But a lot of things make sense when you grow up in Lebanon that maybe don't make sense.
But I was reading. The brief on you is amazing. Well, you read it, and it's like a fascinating book. Just the bits that I was reading. How do you? Because there's some of the stories that you come up with that you were working in Prague, didn't you, at one point? Were you working for the European...
This, I think, of all the things in my life, that's the weirdest thing, is that I was a diplomat. And I'm the most undiplomatic person out there. Yeah, my first job ever when I left uni was as a runner for MTV. And I'd just got to a stage where I'd paid my dues and I'd made sandwiches for people. And I was about to move up one level. And I got a phone call, and it was from the EU delegation in Prague saying, we've got your form and you've got the job. And I'd completely forgotten. I'd filled it out at uni because I speak languages. So anyway, long story short, I went downstairs, resigned from my job as runner. And,
for MTV?
Yeah, for MTV. And then she said, oh, have you got a promotion? I go, yeah, I'm off to Prague to be a diplomat. And so I drove out there, and this was like 6 months after the Velvet Revolution. You know, the honorary consuls in Prague then was Frank Zappa and Lou Reed. It was like an amazingly weird time. And I honestly still have no idea. I was there for a year. I did no work whatsoever, had an amazing time. Every time anyone came into my office with a problem, I'd just say, I'll refer that back to Brussels, and then just chucked it in the cupboard. I'm probably responsible for Brexit.
But at least you resigned, because one of the jobs you got fired from, didn't you? Wasn't ITN you worked for you got fired from?
Yeah, when I came back from Prague... When I came back from Prague, I thought, well, I've got a bit of political... People were impressed by that. I was a diplomat. So I got a job for ITN, working in Parliament. I had a pass to the House of Commons.
You wanted to make interviewing politicians more interesting, which has got to be.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think they realised I was a bit of a chancer, so they used to send me out to get the sort of rubbish interviews. So I tried to sort of make them a bit more exciting, and I eventually got fired because I was interviewing David Mello as Minister of Sport at the time, and I got some mates to play football in the background. And when I scratched my head, which is always the sign in my shows to do something, they were supposed to kick the football to me, and I was going to kick it back. But actually, the football smacked David Mello right in the face. And I personally thought that's what the British public wanted. And I was probably right, but ITN fired me. And because of that, I ended up, through a series of just unemployed chances, ending up in comedy. So
I've just got the steak cooking. I'm leaving that to rest there. So when was the decision to do comedy? When was that?
Well, it was total chance. So when I got fired, someone said to me, I put CV around. As a researcher, I wanted to work in political documentaries. I still thought I was vaguely serious. And I got this interview for a job for a show called Mark Thomas Comedy Product, which was the first kind of Michael Moore type show where they were mixing of MPs. And I thought it was like a serious job, and I went in and I realised that the show was about sort of having a go at the establishment. Yeah. And because of my political knowledge, they wanted me. But literally, I knew it was different. On the first day, we drove as many things as we could through a McDonald's drive-through, a tank, a clown car, a hamburger van. And because there was no money, they couldn't get people. And I just said, oh, I'll do it. And I suddenly realised that if I have a skill, I don't mind doing stuff like that. I really love it.
Because it did get to a stage where you could do mad things. It was just crazy stuff. I'm assuming it wasn't scripted. You could just take a camera and just... I mean, presuming the edit must have been massive because you had to film it and film it and film it till there were magic moments.
I mean, that's one of the weird things about Trigger Happy. Like, people ask me who wrote Trigger Happy. Well, no one wrote it because how can you write something when the other person is a stranger? Like, you don't know what they're going to say. Yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, the real skill for me and the joy in Trigger Happy was having filmed, and we just filmed and filmed, and then Sam and I made it. Then we'd get in the edit, and we'd spend 6 months in the edit, but I loved the edit. That's when I put music on. Music was so important to me for Trigger Happy. And actually, Trigger Happy's just dropped on Netflix now, 20 years later, and I've got kids coming up to me going, oh, my God, you've copied Impractical Jokers. I go, what are you talking about? So
didn't your... We're just making the sauce now. Yeah, classic bechamel sauce, butter, a little bit of flour, and I'm going to put the cheese in it and use this warm milk with infused onions and that sort of... that onion cloute. Didn't your kids, when asked what you did when you were younger, didn't you show them a clip and they said, is that it? Is that all you did?
Well, it's more embarrassing than that, really, because my daughter came back from school once and she said, Dad, are you Dom Joly? And I said, what? And she goes, everyone talks about you as Dom Joly, and obviously at home I was Dad. And so she thought that when I went up to London, I became Dom Joly, and when I came home, I was Dad. And so she said, what does Dom Joly do? So I thought, well, actually, a show like Trigger Happy, great, isn't it? Kids are going to love it. And so I sat them down, and they were, I don't know, 3 and 6 or whatever. And I put it on, and I think there's squirrels fighting each other. There's, you know, idiots running around. It's going to be great. And there was quite a long silence as they watched it for about 20 minutes. And then they just turned around, and the look of sort of shame and disappointment on their faces. And I think that's still there, to be honest. Do you know what? Ironically, the only time I think they were ever proud of me was when I went on I'm a Celeb, which I sort of... You know, it wasn't it wasn't my proudest moment, but for them, they could understand the concept of I'm a Celeb. You know, that was all right.
But, I mean... I've got to say about the tour, and you mentioned the fact that it's you just talking. I mean, you just mentioned several stories there. I mean, it must be an absolute joy and difficult to choose what story to pick because you've done so much.
It is. I mean, the tour's called Dom Joly's Holiday Snaps because essentially what I'm doing is I'm the equivalent of your really boring neighbour who knocks on your door and says, hello, I've just been brass robbing in Norfolk. Would you like to see some of the 3,000 photographs I've taken of the weekend? And obviously you slam the door and say no. But with mine, I'm basically a holiday bore, but my holidays tend to... I've been to 106 countries in the last 15 years. I started off writing for the Sunday Times. I've now written 4 travel books. And there's nothing I like doing more than writing. And what I do is I basically go off somewhere. So let's say I go skiing in Iran, and I just get into trouble. Not bad trouble, but I just let stuff happen. And then I write about it when I come back. I'm kind of like... I'm like a dangerous Bill Bryson. That's the way I kind of look at it. I need to get rid of Bill Bryson, actually.
Well, where's the most dangerous... You said about North Korea as well, I was reading about. You think that's the most probably surreal place you've ever been to?
Well, North Korea is absolutely hands down... Like, one of my issues with travelling is that, you know, travel to me is about taking you out of your comfort zone, doing something different. And actually, the more and more the world gets globalised, it's very difficult to go anywhere where there's not a Starbucks, like 500 metres away. Yeah. So for just total weirdness... North Korea is in a bubble of its own. It's like going on the Truman Show. It's so insane, you almost can't believe how weird it is.
In a way,
it's just totally cut off from the rest of the world. It looks like the end of a Bond film when you peer into the volcano and the baddies, everyone's dressed the same, and it's so surreal, it's almost difficult to explain. But it's just crazy stuff. I went on a coach tour around North Korea. The only way you can go to North Korea is to be part of an improved government programme, and it's so dull. It's brilliant. Like, the first day you go to the Museum of Agricultural Scythes and Lathes, followed by a visit to the Dear Leader's mother's tomb, and then topped off in the evening by going to the only golf course in North Korea, and you turn up, and there's a picture of the Dear Leader and a golf ball, and guess what? He turned up one day, never played golf before, guess what? 18 holes in one. Bang. And they tell you that story, and you're just looking around going, sorry, and everyone believes this. And then you suddenly think, oh, yeah, they do. And it's crazy. It's like being in a massive cult. It's just so weird, the whole place.
Right, look, this is your nice little bit of cauliflower cheese to go with it. So we got...
Look at that. See, I do my cauliflower cheese in one... I don't cut it up.
So cauliflower cheese, but you've got the mozzarella in here as well. So you've got roasted mozzarella with the cauliflower cheese.
Yeah.
With a nice little bit of steak.
I honestly don't understand how you're cooking this so quickly. So this isn't like cheating, like you just...
8 minutes, done.
That's amazing.
There you go. Steak and cauliflower cheese, finished.
Cheers.
Bon appetit.
Oh, thank you very much.
Cauliflower cheese. See if it matches yours. I don't know whether it will, but...
It's my signature dish, but...
Well, sorry, but, you know... Cauliflower cheese and steak.
Looks amazing.
Yeah. But I think with the mozzarella and everything in there, I think it's...
Oh. That steak is insane.
Steak's unbelievable.
Where's
Nice and
that
quick.
from?
Leave it at rest. Absolutely delicious, but yeah.
Where's the meat from?
That's from the Lake District, that one. But I think with the roasted cauliflower in there, you just roast it for about 6 to 8 minutes, something like that. Don't overcook it, whatever you do, and then the sauce over the top, under the grill.
OK, this really annoys me, but that's much better than mine.
Is it? It's a good start. Well, you've got better stories than I have, anyway.
No, honestly,
right, we're cooking my second course of cassoulet for Dom later on the show, and I'm off on food adventure of my very own to South Wales. Not as far as he goes, but just South Wales will do. But join me after the break when Chef Brian Turner will be back behind the hobs for a recipe for chicken. I'll see you in a bit. Welcome back. I do love that menu. Now, later on in the show, I'll be doing a masterclass in Leeks, and I'll be cooking more for Dom Joly as well. But I'm here with a chef who was one of the first chefs in Britain to receive a Michelin star way back in 1702.
And a half.
And a half. Mr. Brian Turner! Yay!
Thank you very much.
And I didn't even read that on the autocue, I just made that up. Right, what are you going to be cooking?
Well, I thought I'd take you back to your childhood.
Yep.
And when you were at catering college, we did a dish called beef olives, and olives, shape of the beef olives, and it's braised beef in a lovely stock, stuffed beef. Well, I'm going to do it with chicken.
Okay. Yeah.
Let's get the chicken on the way first. So I'll bring the chicken over here. So we've got breast of chicken, and we've actually butterfly cut it and put the fillet on top there and just beat that out, OK? So beat it out. So
you mentioned the fact that at college, people may or may not know that you actually judged my interview at college.
I did, and you still got through.
Exactly. And before that, we actually worked together at do you remember there's a hotel called the Malian Spout in Gothland?
I'm going to stop you there, and then I'm going to come back to that, if I may, please, Chef, because I just want to say, look, I've made what we call a duck-cell stuffing with onions, with sage, with garlic, with chilli, and a few breadcrumbs to make a nice... So it's like a roast chicken with sage and onion stuffing.
In the side.
OK?
Right.
Right. Over to you,
Carry
sir.
on, you can pipe it in there, because I know you want to tie it
So
all
I've got some piped. I've got some ready here in a bag, and I'm just going to pipe it in here.
So do you mix that together raw, or you just...
Melted butter, Chef.
So melted butter, just
that's
to bring
all
it all
it
together.
is. That's right. Yes, yes, yes.
Now, I was mentioning the Malian Spout in Gothland. The gentleman that owned it ended up by my lecturer at catering college. But do you know, I was 10 years old when we first worked together, doing a gourmet dinner, aged 10 I was. You were there the 1 week, and then Keith Floyd was there the second week.
I've often been Keith Floyd's warm-up man, and this is obviously another one of those occasions when I didn't realise.
And now I've got his own menu over here and you over here. So you basically you keep the fillet in there to stop it from bursting open. That's the key. Yeah,
well, we don't want to waste it, and so it's just nice to be there. And really, you can take your time to do this. You can do this dish quite a while in advance and then just finish off at the last minute. And
so you mentioned the fact that it was done with beef a lot. What part of the beef would it? Fillet or?
No. It would be...
Obviously not fillet of beef.
No, it wouldn't. It'd be chuck steak or rump steak.
It's like when your granddaddy did something wrong. No. followed by a
it has been followed. No.
Right.
Yes.
So you don't use fillet of beef then, Brian? No?
That is correct. No,
right.
no.
What do you do?
You don't. A nice bit of rump steak or top side, so it's braising beef because it's a long, slow cooked dish. You cook this dish a little bit quicker, given that it's chicken.
All right.
So lovely. That's nice and hot in there. So I'll put a little bit of butter in here. And then we just put the chicken in there. Seal it off so it seals the inside in there. Okay, let's get rid of this. Let's wash the hands a little bit.
Now, if you don't mind me asking, you never stop working. I thought I was a workaholic. You definitely are a workaholic. You continue to work. But you work for an amazing group of people. I mean, the Roux Scholarship I know you've been involved in since the very beginning.
That's coming up soon.
So it's 31?
2 years.
32 years
I think we've done 31, yes.
Yeah. You're also the Academy as well. Tell us about the Academy that you're involved in.
Well, the Royal Academy of Culinary Arts is really about... It's a band of chefs. People who really care. But
I know you want to carry on while you do.
Yeah, I'm just going to put these vegetables in there.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is that it's meant to protect chefs and educate young people and encourage people to come into the industry. It's not a union per se, but it is a gathering of information together.
Yeah. And it's a voice as well, whereas it's a big industry, that hospitality industry, but we don't even have a voice, do we? There's no MP. It's up to ourselves to almost speak for ourselves, if that makes sense.
Well, exactly right, yes. And long may that continue in many ways. So I've just got here, I've got there, carrot, leeks, celery and onion, plenty of veg. OK, so what I'm going to put in there now is a little bit of white wine.
Now, I mentioned the fact Michelin star as well. I remember finishing college, you used to have there was a book, and I always urge anybody to I mean, I love all cookbooks, but if you're ever on certain auction sites, look out for this cookbook, because it's called The Great British Chefs, The Great British Cookbook, The Great British Chefs Book. But there was yourself in it. There was the McCoy brothers. There was, but I remember the dishes, and honestly, it's probably 25 years, 30 years plus since I looked into it. I remember you had a chocolate marquise.
That's a white chocolate marquise. You're quite right.
Yeah, and I haven't opened the book for 25 years, but I remember those dishes. You had a sea bass with braised red cabbage.
That's exactly right. Yes. It's as if you read it last night just to bone up on this.
Because your restaurant, that was the Michelin star place, wasn't it?
No.
Wasn't?
No.
Where was the Michelin star place then?
The Capitol Hotel.
Right, that was just around the corner.
Just around the corner, and then I moved there in '86, and it was there that we did the cookbook.
But you worked with some amazing places throughout your career as well. I mean,
I've been
phenomenal places in London.
Been very lucky. I worked in Switzerland, which was the best bit. Let me just say, I put that in here. I'm going to put a lid on it.
So what have you put in there? White wine and stock?
White wine and stock, that's right, yes. And I've reduced it by half, so that I've got a nice intensity of flavour. And then I've got here the stuff that I want. But now I'm going to put that in there. And I just want that now just to reheat all the way through. And as it reheats all the way through, I'm just going to put, you may be surprised, I'm just going to put a little bit of butter in there. Okay. Because I do feel that it just is missing.
It's not because I'm here, this is the genuine way you cook.
Absolutely right. Well, that's why we taught you at Scarborough College. So I'm just going to put that there now. It's nice. It smells glorious. The sauce is looking good. Where's my butter? There it is. I nearly lost the butter. So get the butter stirred in there. This is the time now you want to make sure the seasoning's okay. And it's at moments like this when I realise just how good I am.
Really? Go on then.
But it's great. Yeah. What I really wanted this dish to be, James, is family food. Yeah. And it's a dish where...
I think you've got chopped parsley over there, too.
I know, Chef, but I want to fill another 2 minutes. So thank you very much for helping me there. That's very kind. And I just don't want people to think, well, he just talked about it and didn't do it, so I'm just doing that.
Fine.
Doing that little bit.
You've got chopped parsley over here as well.
Oh, listen, and I've got some more left for yours this afternoon for later on in the show, so you're all right. Don't worry, we'll put that over there so we remember. But the one thing, I'm a great believer that wherever possible, chop the parsley, chop the herbs at the last minute before you put them in. So this is looking good, is this now? The only other thing I want to just mention right now, if I can, is just to put this in the oven. And just, as you know, I'm a great fan of serving hot food on hot plates. I've got everything going here. Make sure this is nice and hot in the middle. And actually, as I say, for me, this is good family food where everybody can help themselves, put it in the middle of the table. No problems at all.
So have you taken this? You've taken the string off those ones?
I've taken the string off the ones in there. But as you can see, it's a very uncomplicated dish. It's really just a question of braising chicken a different way. Yeah. And we don't actually braise chicken very often, so I think that's quite nice. So let's take this out of here now.
But if you're using beef, of course, you're braising it for a couple of hours.
It would take a lot longer, you're quite right, yes. Depending on the cut of meat, which you asked about earlier on, which is great.
Not fillet.
Not fillet, no. Well, it might be fillet.
Did anybody get that?
It might be fillet.
Wasn't fillet.
It might be fillet in your house, but for most people, fillet A isn't necessary, and B isn't affordable. Let me just turn this off. So we can put another portion on another plate if you like.
That's all right, it's fine.
Just before you say out, lad. Oh, I tell you what, this sauce. My new word, this sauce looks unctuous.
Is that your new word?
Yeah, don't ask me what it means, but it means I could really eat that.
Okay.
What I'm going to do, going to be very un-Turner-like. Try not to spill it everywhere. But just look at that. And it's by keeping that extra vegetable separate and then just reutilising it at the back end. You can see the colour of that over there. Yeah. Well, we've got all the flavour out of that. That's what we wanted out of there. And now we've got this lovely colour and presentation.
How's that? So give us the name of this dish.
These are chicken olives. Just for you, James.
Chicken olives without the olives, but do not use fillet of beef. Brian Turner, everybody. Big love for you here, sir. Looking forward to this then, Bright.
Careful, plate's warm.
Nice, 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 nice. Amazing. Amazing.
And it's economical as well.
What, all these portions?
Yeah, that's one portion there.
It's lovely. And how long do you cook it for if you're doing the beef one then?
Probably an hour and a half. It will depend, once again, whether you use topside, rump, chuck, whatever you actually use.
It is, but it makes an amazing sauce, that, doesn't it, when you slowly cook them?
Absolutely right. I mean, that's what we've done. Apart from these little bits here, we've captured all the flavour and got it back into the sauce. You've taken it out and then put it back in. And for me, that's really the economics of cooking at the end of the day. Yeah.
Delicious, that. Brian Turner, everybody. Whatever you do, don't do it with fillet of beef. Not good. The Rangoon sisters will be here treating us to a fish noodle soup in a bit. And I'll be back in the kitchen with my guest, Dom Joly, a little bit later. But after the break, I'll be rustling up a super pasta recipes in the valleys of Wales on another one of my favourite food adventures. I'll see you in a bit. Welcome back. I'll be giving you more top tips in this week's masterclass, and I'll be dishing up a sausage cassoulet for Dom Joly a little bit later. But before that, I thought I'd take a look at some of the dishes you've been cooking at home. And first up, we've got a photograph from Nikki Gilbury of a raspberry and white chocolate cheesecake that looks stunning. A lot of work in there in the presentation, but it tasted amazing and looks fabulous as well. A big well done goes to Darren Jones, who made Francesco's Mazzei's lamb and burrata meatballs. Now, I remember that. He did it on the show a few months ago. It's absolutely delicious. He's even done the pesto as well. Ace job there, Darren. And finally, top marks goes to Alex Downer, who made the cheese and ham toasty, just like the one I treated the Yorkshire Shepherdess to on the show a while back. That looks and tastes epic. Now, do keep sending your pictures coming in. We love seeing what you've been inspired to cook at home. But now it's time to take a look at what some of my favourite food adventures. And this week, I'm heading to South Wales, serving up a delicious recipe in the stunning Usk Valley. The Welsh countryside really is stunning, and it's bursting with all kinds of unusual produce. Kit like this is essential to farmers who work tirelessly to produce food and to get it to our plate. Don't worry, viewers, I've been driving these since I was 8. I'm cooking the first dish of the day overlooking the Usk Valley. What a place. Do you know what? Next time you're in the travel agent looking for a holiday abroad, have a word with yourself. Look at this. You don't need to go anywhere. Stunning. And so is this dish. This is using amazing lamb, and I'm going to do a lamb ragu, a classic lamb ragu, done with pasta. But the first thing, a little bit of Welsh wine. Nice little bit of pasta, a few tomatoes, a little bit of time, this dish will be done. So the first thing we do is get our Mirepoix done. Now, our Mirepoix is diced veg, finely diced veg ready. You were looking at it for the sort of same size as the meat. You slice through that way. Make sure the knife is really sharp. The reason why you cry, your knife's not sharp. And then all the way through. And you end up with diced onion, like that. Bit of garlic, edge of a knife, whack, and roughly chop that up. That's that one done. And do the same thing with the rest of the veg. I've got some wonderful little bit of leek here. We're just going to use the centre part of this leek, and then cut this into strips, and then chop through. When you chop through, rock the knife backwards and forwards, all the way through. And we do the same thing with the celery as well. A few bits of carrot, same thing applies. Take your time when you do this as well. It's important that you get this bit right. Otherwise, you just end up with what looks like a lamb stew. Right, in our pan now, a little bit of butter. And our Mirepoix in. So you're frying off all your nice veg. Now, at the same time now, you can grab some of this bacon and we can dice this all up. So in we go with the bacon. Now, this is black treacle cured bacon. And we just pop a little bit of our meat in. Now, if you wanted, you could use a little bit of shoulder as well, but make sure you dice it nice and small. You don't want big chunks floating around in there. So once your lamb's in as well, now we can incorporate our liquid. Now, I like to use a little bit of tomato puree with this, but tomato puree is quite strong, so what you've got to do is what we call cook it out. You've got to put in it at the beginning of the cooking. You don't need any more than that. And then a combination of tinned fresh tomatoes and stock. It's entirely up to you what quantity you put in, but a little bit of tomato. I like to use a bit of chicken stock, a bit of beef stock for this. Lamb stock's quite difficult to get hold of. A little glug of red wine. And then all we need to do now is grab a few bay leaves, throw those in. So then what you do is bring this to the boil and cook it without a lid, because you want it to reduce down at the same time, and cook it for about 20, 25 minutes. Done. Cheers. Just look at that. Oh, ho, 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 ho. Now, to cook our pasta, plenty of salted boiling water. The great Caluccio will be looking down on me now. He said, you should cook it in seawater. Now, with pasta, particularly with the ragu, try and go for the ones like this. The little penne pasta, the ones with the holes in, and the ridges, because the ridges and the holes keep the sauce in there. Now, this is kind of fresh pasta, so it only takes a couple of minutes to cook. If that, really. Probably a minute in there and then a minute in the sauce. So, fresh basil. We just rip the basil up, just throw that in. Plenty of black pepper, so season this. Give this a quick mix. Quick taste. And then the pasta goes into the sauce. Ragu needs the pasta cooking in it, like that. And then it's all about just finishing this off. So you can stir this all in. It is good. Now, I was going to put it on this platter, but it seems pretty pointless when you're up here, because you just want to eat it out of the pan, really. Parmesan cheese. Grated over the top. What more do you want?
I'm off to play with his tractor.
So there you have it. Lamb ragu with fresh penne pasta. The most fun you can have up a hill in Wales. Well, nearly. Still to come, the amazing Rangoon sisters will be dishing up a fish noodle soup, and I'll be back in the kitchen with Dom Joly a little bit later. But I'll see you back here in just a few minutes for this week's masterclass. I'll see you in a bit. Welcome back. Now I'll be making sausages with cassoulet for my guest Dom Joly in a little while, and the Rangoon sisters will be making their very first appearance in the kitchen very shortly. But first, it's time for this week's little masterclass. And this week's masterclass is all about leeks. I love them. I grow them at the bottom of the garden. I think they're absolutely delicious. But the first thing we want to do is think about preparing the leeks for this. So you have your standard leek. Now, the leek obviously grows vertically, and because of that, as it grows vertically, it traps the dirt inside the leek, particularly in this top area, which is the first bit of the leek that grows. Obviously, it gets bigger. So the easiest way to get rid of the dirt that's inside in here is to do a little tip. Whenever you get the leek, keep the root on ideally. Take a knife and split it all the way down the centre, like that, to open it up. And then when you wash it, put it underneath the tap and let the water run through, and it will get rid of all that dirt in there. If you do it the opposite way, it's going to just trap back into it. If you chop it all up, you'll never get it all out. So the easiest way to do it is just rinse it all the way through with the running water, and that'll clean the leeks. Now, I'm going to do two of my favourite dishes for this one. First one I'm going to do is charred leeks with some Morecambe Bay potted shrimps. I actually love this dish because I love that when you're doing it at home, people are like, what is he doing? But it really works on the barbecue, this. And all you want to do with the leeks is get the firm, bigger leeks with this. You can do it with the smaller ones, but the bigger ones are the best. And just take the charcoal and pop it direct onto the coals. So the whole leek goes on there. Direct on the coals. Now, it will blacken on the outside, but because the leeks contain quite a bit of moisture, it's going to start to steam the leeks inside as well. So you get this combination of sort of charred on the outside, but it's cooking all the way through. It's a fantastic recipe, this. The other one is a personal favourite of mine, but it's also, this has been on the restaurant menu for quite a number of years. It's a side order that I do, and I love it. It's just it's leeks with brioche, and you can mix it with different sort of fillings. It's entirely up to you, but you can use the whole of the leeks for this as well, because some people don't use the whole of the leeks, and I don't understand why, because this bit, it can be a little bit bitter sometimes, but if you take the entire leek like that, chop it through, there we go, we got another one, slice them all the way through, and these are amazing roasted actually, by the way. If you just take these as the bigger chunks, just them with a little bit of olive oil, some thyme, and treat them like roasted vegetables. Roasted leeks are also delicious, but what we're going to do is just chop a decent amount of the leeks like that. Now, when you're doing this, chop it quite fine. As opposed to bigger chunks. There we go. And then grab yourself a hot pan. Now, I'm going to actually use the same pan as what I'm going to serve it in. This one. A little knob of butter going in there. And then we can sort of sweat the leeks at the same time. You don't really want to fry them that much, so don't allow them to go brown, but just want to sweat them down. It's actually quite a quick dish, this, really. With the leeks, you don't need to overcook them. It's going to take about 3 or 4 minutes to cook these down. You can add shallot, you can add garlic and that kind of stuff, but you don't really need it, really. You know, the leeks are kind of the cousin of the onion family, really. You don't need all that additional flavour in there. So once the leeks go in, you've got some thyme. Now, particularly this time of year, little advice with the thyme, what you do is, because thyme can grow outside, and I've got some in the garden over here, and we've got it growing on here, but the easiest way to do this is, in the winter, we strip it from the stalks, as opposed to the summer, the stalks become quite pliable, and you can eat the stalks. So in the winter, as it starts to toughen up, you need to strip the thyme from the stalks. The opposite applies in the summer, where you can just chop it all up, but strip it from there. There we go, and then one more. And then that's going to go in the pan as well. Now, what I will do at the same time is I'll just take these leeks out, just to show you, because they don't take very long, like these, look. They look like bits of charcoal, don't they, these things, look. But you can see the steam from them as well that you get. So you've got these, and they'll just steam. Some people, some chefs do this and then wrap them with a little bit of cling film and they just steam up as well in there. But you can see the moisture coming through the ends of the leeks, and it will actually cook them all the way through. And it's only these sort of, you take out the outer piece of the leeks, the burnt bits, and the inside is the special bit. So once you get to that stage, we can then start to add our ingredients into our leeks. So you know, a little bit of white wine, just a touch, and we can add some double cream. Just a little bit of double cream. Quite a lot of double cream. This goes in here. And you want to gently let that simmer, come to the boil, and this is going to cook for about 2 minutes. Meanwhile, we can concentrate what's happening over here with our leeks that we've got on here. So that'll just quite happily come to the boil. So with our leeks that we've got in here, we can then just remove the outer part of the leek. Leave some of it, but take the quite heavily charred bits off, because you want the flavour as well. So that's the bit that we get rid of. So just with a knife, you can use a cloth if you want, but you can see the leeks are cooked, and they really don't take very long to cook in there. But on the coals, these are amazing. Now the great thing about this, you can make it in advance. So this, if you're having a barbecue, you can actually pop these in as the coals are dying down, and this is great for the following day, because you can char the leeks, get them all ready, put them in the fridge, and then just reheat this dish, which is also delicious. So we'll lose this out of the way because they've done their job. Give this a quick wipe down. And then all we can do is get another container like this and just strip this all the way down. And you can see, look, the steam from the leeks, look at that. So much water in these, look. And then we can just pop these in amongst our little dish, like that. Colour from these, the taste is amazing. Like that. Straight down the middle. The smell as well, oh. Like that. And then all we do, it's so simple, this. A little bit of parsley, a few bits of chilli, and some shrimps. So touch of parsley, you can chop it up like that. A little bit of seasoning, black pepper, nice bit of salt over there, and then I like a combination of chilli and the Morecambe Bay shrimp. So you've got a bit of green chilli because you don't want to mess with the colour, just a touch of spice. Now there is a little bit of spice, of course, in here. It's usually mace that they flavour this potted shrimps with, but a little bit of chilli in there. And then you take the potted shrimps, you can always pop these out and they break up with the butter. So look, you just take these, break them all up over the top. And like I was saying, for a dinner party, you can have this for tea the night after, day after a barbecue, stuff like that. And usually barbecuing this time of year as well, it's fantastic. But you take that, pop it in the fridge as it is, and then all you do is you take the entire thing straight out of the fridge, already in the dish, oven at home about 200 degrees for about 8 minutes, 10 minutes, something like that, to reheat, and just want to melt that butter. The idea is you don't want to brown the butter too much, you just want to melt it nicely. That's all you want to do, but just allow that to melt nicely and then just serve it. While we've got our leeks cooking away nicely, what I'm going to do now is then just take our cheese. So we haven't seasoned this yet, which I'll just season now. So we just want these just to soften up nicely, which they are doing now as they start to bubble away. Black pepper. Bit of salt over there as well. Now you can mix and match, you can put parsley in there if you wanted to as well. But what I do with this is take brioche. Now, leeks and brioche are an amazing combination. So this is not far off, actually, those leeks in there. But what you want to do with the brioche is just put the chunks of brioche in here. That's why the liquid's quite important. So don't, when you're doing this, make sure you've got a decent amount of liquid in it. We can take that, a little bit of, you can toast the brioche as well if you wanted to. And actually, you can get away with a croissant, using the croissant in there. Pain au chocolat, not good. But, yeah, but we can just take, look at that. It's a lovely little dish. I'll just get a little bit more butter cooling away in our pan to go with it. But so we've got our leeks one there, this one over here. We're going to take some cheese now. It's up to you which cheese you use. You can use a combination of cheddar, a little bit of Gruyere. It's entirely up to you, but just a bit of grated cheese for our leeks and brioche. So what I'll do is I'll just take that and just warm that up a little bit in here. That's going to go in. Melt the butter a little bit. So that's going to go in here. A little bit of the Gruyere as well. It's up to you. Emmental, combination of the two, just a bit of cheddar. It's entirely up to you, but the cheesy leeks with the brioche, oh, just delicious. But a bit of that. So I've got a bit of melted butter over here for this one. This one, I'm just going to get a nice bit of colour on the brioche. You can do this just under the grill at home. Just toast the brioche a little bit. Just a nice way. You can put it inside it as well, but just a little bit of toastiness over the top. It's perfect. If I take this out, I'll just show you what I mean. Look, you can see that bubbling away nicely. Look, with a lovely bit of toasted brioche on the top. You can then take our cheese over the top. Like that. And if you wanted to do this as a meal, you can take a bit of chicken, pop that in there, a little bit of cooked chicken. That's also another great meal. So you get a whole dish in its own right. But that's just going to brown nicely in there. Meanwhile, we'll just finish off this one with a touch of foaming butter that we got over here, over the top of the leeks. But you see how quick this is. Nice and simple with the charred leeks. It's a wonderful little dish, this, whether you serve it just on its own. You don't have to do the shrimp with it, it's entirely up to you, but just a little bit of butter over the top, a little bit of olive oil even, something like that, with a little bit of chilli. But that's just a fantastic dish. Really, really simple to cook. And remember, just cooking the leeks whole. Right. You'll like this. Leeks and brioche. Every time one of those goes out with a pass, I just go, it's just delicious. Absolutely. The bubbling bit of cheese, the nice creamy leeks underneath. It's great, that. So there you go. If there's anything you'd like to learn about in Little Mousecast, then do get in touch. We'll see if we can help out right here on the show. Time now for a quick break, but join me again in a couple of minutes. We'll be handing over the hobs to the Rangoon sisters for the very first time. I'm looking forward to that. And before you eat that, give it 2 minutes. Burns your mouth. Welcome back. Now I'll be cooking for Dom Joly very shortly, but first I'm here in the kitchen with chefs behind two of the hottest recipe books in the past year. It's Amy and Emily Chung, aka the Rangoon sisters. Now, first of all, congratulations. Welcome to the house. I say congratulations because we met at an award ceremony.
We're a lot more sober this time. So, you know.
No, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. We're going to talk about the book in a minute, but
sure.
What are you going to be cooking for us?
Yeah, so today we're going to be making moingar, which is a Burmese fish noodle soup. Okay. It's regarded as the national dish of Burma. Right. And we think it's really delicious. It's really easy to cook, and it's good to make in advance as well.
Well, sounds good. So the stage set... Amy, the stage is set. You're going to get on and do the soup as well. Emily's going to cook a little bit later, but what are you going to be doing then? So
first of all, I guess with many dishes anyway, you start off with a bit of vegetable oil. So actually, I say a bit, but actually it's quite a bit. We're not scared of oil in Burmese cooking. It does add a lot of flavour, so quite a fair bit there. And then we just add our sliced onions. Yeah.
Now I get the feeling with Burmese cooking, it's about much more. It's about family. It's about tradition. Would that be right?
Yeah, I guess that's kind of a way for us to have connected with our roots in having family meals together, and it kind of extended that, you know, our love for food we wanted to share with other people, and Burmese cookery in particular, because I don't think it's necessarily one that people talk about a lot. And so we kind of ended up inviting people into our families, I guess, by having supper clubs and sharing our food.
So tell me about these supper clubs. Do you actually invite people into your house?
We have once, and then they wouldn't leave, so that was kind of annoying. They were there for
They
about
were like
5
till
hours.
They were like till 10:30.
So that was only once.
It was our mum's fault, really, though, because she kept nattering to them. So
yeah, she kept nattering, so
Her
they didn't want to
fault
leave.
too.
But normally in other people's restaurants and cafes, we've been quite fortunate that they've let us loose on their venues, and then we have events. And
so you grew up, obviously, I mean, loving food, particularly you mentioned Burma and your family and everything else. You grew up wanting to be chefs, wanting to be cooks, because you...
I would say no.
No, but...
What do you do?
That was never the plan, I think, and we would have never thought that we'd have a supper club, that we'd have a book. That's just, you know, we never came out thinking that would be the case.
Right.
I think we feel quite lucky and had lots of great opportunities. I mean, we've always loved food. We've always loved cooking, because we did that when we were young. You know, learning from mum, dad, grandma. So I don't know. It's just sort of.
But you had an incredible stressful life when you were. I mean, your trade, your job. It's a lot of work. You put a lot of work into getting qualified for your job, because you're both. Well, tell us what you do. You're both.
Yeah. Well, the day job is doctoring. And
both of you are doctors.
Yeah. So I don't think it was ever in our dreams that we would do a bit of cooking on the side. But we both liked science, and then I guess you saw, because I'm the older one, in case you haven't guessed.
Right.
So I think after I did medicine, then I guess you were interested. Am I right?
Yeah.
And then we just ended up doing that. And I think with any stressful job, it's good to have other outlets, and so the cooking has been a really good outlet to put our energies in. And
I mean, we just get the best of both worlds in what we do. You know, we both love our day jobs, but then we can get to cook and share that food with other people. It works out really nicely.
So what are you doing in there then? So we got the onions frying away in the pan.
So this is my ginger and garlic in here, and it just sort of bashing up into a rough paste. It's just to release the flavours, that's all. So I'm just going to add that to my pan as well. And we'll get a nice smell, I hope.
So do you have to colour the onions or not?
So not for this one. It's just to soften them, really.
Okay.
In other dishes, yes. We spend like at least 20 minutes cooking our onions for the curries, but not for this one.
All right.
So I'm just going to add the spices now. So just add some chilli powder.
Yep. All
right.
So when did you start doing this book? Because it's gone on to be a huge hit. Tell us about the book then. Whose idea was that? Was it something that you had and then because I'm always interested in how you approach when you're not on TV, you're working as a doctor. How do you get a book published?
Well, I think, to be honest, part of it is luck, but we had a few things in the press, and Grace Dent, the food writer and critic, had tasted our food.
Big fan of yours.
And she has been really supportive, and I guess from that press then we got approached.
I say there's a whole tin of pilchards going.
Yeah,
I love this.
Have you ever had someone cook a whole tin of pilchards on?
I've not. It's a first for me on this show. Do you know what? It's the genuine first for me on the show.
Really?
A tin of pilchards in a pan.
Yeah. Well, there you go. But so yes, I guess. It does seem a bit bizarre.
We should say that with mohinga, it's usually made with a catfish that you can get in Burma, in Myanmar and Southeast Asia.
Not that difficult to get. It's a bit difficult to get in.
Difficult to get here. Yeah. So when our mum and grandma were, younger, they recreated the flavour by using a can of pilchards, and actually it's so easy because you just have it in the cupboard and then it's done.
So what have you got going in there now?
Yeah, so I just put a bit of fish sauce in there.
Right.
Again, having that sort of salty flavour in Burmese cooking is really important. So it could be from fish sauce, shrimp paste, or dried shrimp. So really key. And I'm just putting some hot water here.
Because a lot of people take the fish paste and then roast it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You can roast it.
You can do, and then it really becomes
gets even more.
If you dislike
pungent.
anybody, you can roast it in somebody else's house and then take it away and then.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of my childhood memories. Is that
it's a bit strong, isn't it?
And then when you're small, and then with chili as well. And I remember the chili, when you've roasted it and it makes you cry and cough.
That wasn't
That's
a good
childhood
memory.
But
The whole
now,
house,
obviously, I love it.
Right, so what have you got going in there now?
Yeah, so this is the last thing for the most. We're just going to put in some raw shallots, okay?
More onions?
Yeah, why not?
Just in case.
Added flavour. And we're just going to let that cook, really. So we just leave it uncovered to simmer and just leave for all those flavours to develop and those shallots to cook.
And meanwhile, you're gonna carry on cooking, so we'll move that.
So just be careful.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm your mum.
That's it.
I know. There we go. And there's your pan.
Look at that. Flawless tag team. Look at that. Look at that. Happy with that? What are you cooking then?
So I'm going to make Pear Chow, which are a crispy chana dal cracker that you serve with a mohangar, but you could just have them. They're like a Moorish snack that you could have with a beer. I'm sure most people would enjoy them in just on their own.
Okay.
So I've just got some vegetable oil just warming gently, and I'm going to make up my batter. So this is some chana dal, or you can use yellow split peas, similar thing, and you soak them for 4 hours.
Can you buy those tinned or not? No, you just have to buy them.
I don't think you can. Just buy the dry ones.
Just have to buy the dry
and then they
and soak
keep
them.
forever, so you can just have them.
Yeah.
And then we've got some flours. So we've got some plain flour and some rice flour. So that kind of adds a bit of lightness to the batter. And then I've got some water. That's it. So it's quite a thin consistency, a bit like, I'd say, sort of whole milk consistency, so quite runny.
Yeah.
So Emily always does the deep frying jobs.
Yeah,
Why is
it's not
that?
a great
She's
job,
the
is
oldest
it?
one, or just that?
It's just how
Why is
it's
that?
worked out.
I think it's just worked out, but also I just like to say that she's just quite... It's reflective of her personality, probably, as well. She just likes things a bit more quick and things like that. So
I don't know what just...
I tend to do the curries.
It's kicking off in here, it's going to get domestic.
Well, I mean, we do get on,
Right.
but, siblings,
But,
isn't it?
what do you mean but?
Siblings.
Well, with siblings, like any siblings, you often have your, get annoyed at each other.
Who's the best cook then?
I think we're both good at different things. That's a diplomatic
That's
answer,
very
isn't it?
diplomatic. But it's the doctor coming out. There you go.
So basically, I want the cracker to be nice and flat, so that's why the oil isn't super hot.
Okay. So what's the idea? Is you want it just warm but not too hot?
Yeah, so just so that it will settle into kind of a flattish thing. It doesn't have to be, and in any way you can crunch them up in your bowl, so it doesn't really matter. So that's actually...
Is the idea to brown them then as well? Or is that the idea?
They'll get lightly golden brown.
Because I've never seen one of these before. So can you get different ones? You don't have to use this... Is it always this mixture?
Yeah.
Right.
You can make other types of fritters with the chana dal, so you can... a bit like a falafel, so you can blitz them in a food processor with onion, garlic, spices, and then squeeze them into balls, and then they're really nice too.
So would these be eaten on their own, like you say, in the street foods over there?
Yeah, can do. You can just get them on the street.
Would it be with a dip
later.
or something like that?
Sometimes you get like a sour dipping sauce, like with a chili and lime and things like that, but you can just eat them on their own.
Okay.
They're nice. They're just nice just like that.
So you can kind of continue to make them. I would sort of take the pan off the heat for a bit to cool it down so that you get the nice shape, and then you can keep going if you need to.
Right, Amy, it's your turn to finish it off and plate up.
So this has been bubbling along
Yeah.
nicely. So we'll just bring that back over here.
Smells amazing, I have to say.
So then we can ladle some of this lovely fish soup over the top. So there we go. It's always good to have some of these shallots in there as well. So hopefully I should show you what the flavour's like anyway.
Wow.
So there we go.
Yeah.
And then you want to do some lime and some eggs.
Yeah.
So I just cut this in down. Oh, so nice.
Oh, lovely.
So I'm presuming because of the success of this, there's a book 2 in the pipeline. There must be.
Well, we have to talk about that, I think.
We've got lots of extra recipes we'd love to do.
There's definitely a book 2 in the pipeline. There's definitely.
All right.
We embrace any opportunity we have. I mean, this is like the journey that we
know that. You chased me around for about 2 hours at the award ceremony. I know that.
Don't.
It worked, didn't it?
Oh, we've got video evidence, which we'll show now.
So here you are. You've got your crunchy fritters
Changing
on
the
top.
subject very quickly.
I know.
So give us the name of this dish.
Yep, so this is moingal, and it is a Burmese fish noodle soup, and it's national dish of Burma.
Totally is. How good is that? Right, I'm looking forward to this then. Can I have a taste? So, and what is the idea of these little fritters then? The idea is to dunk them in, to float them on the top? What is the idea of it?
Crunch them in. Yeah.
Crunch them in?
I'd mix it all up.
Mix it all in.
Right. And you eat it with... How do you eat this? Spoon, fork, spoon, both?
However you like, but yeah, spoon. Usually just a spoon, actually, but
spoon.
I'll allow you a fork.
Right. Oh, you allow me fork, then? Spoon.
Because it might be a bit messy.
Yeah, just mix it all together.
Right. A lot of flavours there, isn't there? How do you get that out of a tin of pilchards?
It's surprising, isn't it?
I know.
It's half the bottle of fish sauce that's gone in there. I've just seen... Look at the amount of fish sauce that's gone in there as well. But that's the condiment you use. Is that the condiment of choice? That's what you use to flavour things.
And you also have that on the table, fish sauce.
You know, everything in moderation.
Ladies, that is fantastic. Emily and Amy, everybody. Brilliant. You're welcome back anytime, in between shifts. Right, that's it. We're nearly at the end of the show. We've already eaten pretty well this morning. We've got time for one more final course. I'll be back after the break for one more dish for my guest, Dom Joly. I'll see you in a minute. Cheers. Welcome back to the last part of the show, but I'm back in the kitchen with my guest, the very funny Dom Joly. Now, we talked earlier about your love of food. We had that sort of dish, the steak and the cauliflower cheese. This is cassoulet. Where does the love of cassoulet come from?
Well, I'm all about comfort food, and I love stews. I mean, you know, my wife, Canadian, dry food always. I need sauces. And I spent some of my life when I was escaping Lebanon, the south of France, and this is sort of Toulousian, that area, and then into... there's something amazing about it, and I'm just obsessed with the beans and the... I used to get tins, and so when I miss it, I'd get it. It's one of the few things I can get in tins that it's expensive, but it's almost as good as the real thing.
The duck confit is amazing. So what I've got here is I've got some duck confit out of the tin. Now, you can make this yourself.
I've never understood confit.
Well, confit is slowly cooked in fat.
OK.
So, or oil.
That's why I like it.
So the oil or the fat, it's usually cooked in the same fat as what it is. So duck confit is duck cooked in duck fat.
You're just adding it.
Or goose, or you get all manner of different sort of stuff. You get pork confit, you can do salmon confit in oil, that kind of stuff, but it's slowly cooked. Don't fry it, or it should deep fry. Gently simmering away, then leave it. And by leaving it, it preserves it in the duck fat, which we have in there. So that's been slowly cooked.
This is perfect for a healthy diet, isn't it?
It is a bit. That's what it is. So then when we take honey and place that over the top and then roast that in the oven. So that's going to go in the oven. So that's that bit. The cassoulet side, I'm going to speed it up a bit. Old-fashioned cassoulets, the classic cassoulet, wouldn't be done like this. I sort of spent a lot of time in Toulouse as well. This would be cooked whole. And then pieces of meat would be taken out and that kind of stuff.
It's the bits of meat that taste so amazing.
Yeah, so what I've done is separate these bits out. So we've got the lardons, we've got the duck, and we've got this. This is Morteau sausage. This is absolutely delicious.
Is that already cooked?
Yeah, but this wouldn't be. This would be raw. I've cooked this. But
I taste it.
This tastes incredible. And that's what you need. A lot of people try making this with sort of, Toulouse sausages and that kind of stuff. It's not going to work. You need to get the right. So Morteau sausage.
Full of flavour, though.
Yeah, and it often comes raw, so you actually cook it, slowly cook it like that, and you can actually use the liquor to make the cassoulet out of as well. But normally you would put this in with the beans and everything else, and it would be slowly cooked. So, I mean, your love of France as well, but your love of travelling, and we mentioned it earlier.
Yeah.
This leads me on to this fascinating project that you're trying to get off the ground. Literally off the ground, flying around the world.
Well, I mean, I always have lots of, one of the problems with... Because, growing up, the thing that I really wanted to be, when you grow up in Lebanon, the kind of people I looked up to were travel writers, diplomats, foreign correspondents, spies. I might have been all of those, I might have been not, but I've always wanted to travel, and so that's what I've done in the last 15 years. But one of the problems is people have been travelling for so long now, it's very difficult to get a new thing. So I've kind of given up on that, and I kind of like going to strange countries. But a friend of mine has a plane and his dream has been to fly this two-seater plane around the world, and no one wants to do it with him. So I thought it'd be rude.
Because it's a Tiger Moth or something like that?
No.
Have you checked to see whether it's a proper plane?
I've been out. It's a pretty posh plane. It kind of flies itself, but still, I think basically none of his friends' wives will let them do it with him, whereas my wife, incredibly keen for me to do it, and said, honestly, take your time. The longer it takes. She's just checked the life insurance and everything else is absolutely fine.
That's fine, you're off.
So, yes, so towards the end of the year, we are going to go around the world. I haven't got a catchy name for it yet. I mean, there's an obvious one, around the world in 80 days. But actually, I think we're going to do it in about 50 days, because we want to stop and have a look and see what happens. But so it's a bit of a random one. We'll see how we go. We're just going to fly towards France and keep going.
Because we mentioned the fact that I mentioned the fact that you love travelling. You've done all manner of different sort of stuff, but you managed to combine that with different stories. What about this beast thing that you went? You went hunting for all manner of different sort of Bigfoot as well, didn't you, and all that?
Yeah. Well, one of the problems was my first book was The Dark Tourist, and I went off to supposedly dangerous places, and my wife was worried, and my kids were a bit worried, and they said, "Oh, you're going to die in these places." Actually, they were quite nice. It was fine. But my wife said, "You've got to do something that kind of makes it acceptable for your kids, less challenging." And so I suddenly thought, well, what would I do? And growing up, I read a lot of Tintin. And Tintin in Tibet, he went after the Yeti. And I suddenly thought, I read the Arthur C. Clarke book when I was a kid. And I was
I remember Arthur C. Clarke.
Arthur C. Clarke's Mysterious World. And he saw Bigfoot and stuff like that, and Loch Ness Monster. I thought, that's what it's going to be. I'm going to be a monster hunter. And so I went around the world basically looking for the 6 big monsters. I went to the Congo. I went to North America after Bigfoot. But the only trip I've ever done where I genuinely felt sort of in fear of my life. I've been to lots of dangerous places, but actually they're always quite better than you expect. The Congo was too far for me. I mean, it was
why was that?
I got into all sorts of trouble. I went to the north to this lake called Lake Tele to try and find a monster called the Macalian Mbembe, which is like a blocker of rivers. And I actually had to escape at dawn, and it was pretty good. But one of the problems of being a travel writer is you kind of, obviously you don't want to die, but you're also thinking, if I get out of here, this is going to be an amazing book. So it's kind of, you do kind of stay in trouble situations longer than you would want to.
So, look, I know you want to keep your eye on what's going on here. We've got the sausage gone in here, I've got the bacon, lardons. This is something that, when I used to do this when I was working in France, it was like the simplified version of a cassoulet. I've got the beans going over, get haricot beans over here.
Is this like a fast food cassoulet?
This is like a fast food version, but you've got all the flavours on it. We've got the liquor from the...
But how do you make what I love about a cassoulet is that thickness of the bean sauce.
This is what's going in now. So we can do this. It's in theory this and cream.
Butter and cream.
Yeah. So you bring this together, and when I mean butter,
okay,
I mean.
So this is why all the French rugby scrum come from Toulouse, isn't it?
This is, I mean, you look.
They're big lads. Oh my God. Okay. Right. This is what I've not been doing. Yeah. Butter.
You're going to offset that with a bit of parsley, remember, which is vegetable.
Just give it green. Yeah, that's fine, yeah.
Yin and yang in France, that's what it is. But you're not going to tell the French what to do, so we've got our... Look at this. This is our confit. Look at this.
Look at that.
That's just roasted, absolutely delicious. And then we stir all this lot together. And we mentioned the fact that you're on tour as well. So tell everybody about your tour if people are just getting up and missing it, because it's a tour of it's a PowerPoint tour, which is.
Well, I mean, I call it an extreme PowerPoint, which makes it sound less exciting than it is. But it is, because the problem is I'm not a stand-up. I'm a comedian, but I've never done stand-up. And so when people come and see the show, I think they kind of assume, it's trigger happy. What are you going to do? Dress as a squirrel and hit us with something? It's not. It's essentially a show that kind of explains why I started off doing trigger happy and ended up going around North Korea in a coach. So that's the show. And it's basically just a lot of, hopefully, very amusing stories, good photos, weird stuff. And you actually learn something when you come out of it. I don't want you to be frightened by that. It's not school.
And one of the stories that I want to pick up on is the fact that, I've been flying for 16 years now.
Yeah.
What
do you fly?
I fly planes and helicopters.
It's beginner stuff.
Because this is
what engine.
This is what I want to get into.
Yeah.
Balloons.
Yeah.
You ended up how you ended up getting the balloon was a story on its own.
Well, I did an impulse buy with a balloon, which I had never even crossed my mind, and I was sitting in my kitchen, and my wife comes back from a book club with this sort of elderly woman, and she's, you can spot a balloonist. They're quite eccentric and stuff, and she walked in. and she announced that she was selling her balloon because she'd had a heart attack and couldn't carry on. So I bought it off her, and then I tweeted. I kind of took a photo of it and said, bit of a weird lunch, bought a balloon. And a guy living an hour away from me turns out to be the best balloonist in the world. And he contacted me and said, frankly, the balloon world needs a better face than Richard Branson. And so he took me out to Italy, to this place called Mondovi. And Mondovi is surrounded on 3 sides by the Alps. And so it's got almost no wind. So it's become a sort of haven for hot air balloonists. And when you're in Italy, you're not called a hot air balloonist, you're called a mongolfiere. And you're honestly treated like rock stars. And so he taught me to fly there, and I learned to fly there, and it's amazing.
But look, this is where you get this creaminess of it. Now, the key to this is this stuff. So I always find anything that's got beans and butter and cassoulet, because it's quite rich.
Yeah.
And that's the butter and a lot of butter gone in there. Look,
that's a heart attack.
Yeah, look at that. That's a block of butter gone.
Congratulations.
Then you use a little bit of the sherry vinegar in there, and then in the sauce to go with it. So we've got a nice little bit of sauce. I'm going to bring this to the boil. We just stir all this lot together. Lots of parsley gone in here.
I love parsley.
You don't have to do the tomatoes, but then we can take our nice little bit of cassoulet like this. And then you've got the duck, which we can then take off. Place that on there. And then the sauce is the liquor from the cooking liquor.
Yeah.
Together with a little bit of veal stock, and then sherry vinegar gone at the end with a little bit of butter.
If you say that, that's the difficult thing for me to make. Like, it doesn't just arrive.
Well, it does, because
how long have you cooked that down for?
I've made plenty, so you can take this, take it home with you. And then what you do is just take a little bit of this over the top. And this just enriches the little cassoulet. But you can take that home, you can freeze it.
Oh, really? OK.
And you can have a cassoulet whenever you want. But there you have it. My version, a little cassoulet. For Dom, everybody. Dom. Bon appetit. There you go.
Oh, look at that.
Dive in. And there's a little bit left over if you want it. Do you want to take that home?
Of course I do.
You have to take it home.
Yeah. My wife loves sauces.
Take it home. But tell me what you think of that with the beans and the sauce and.
Oh my God.
The sauce is amazing when you get that.
Can I live here, please?
Can you live here?
Oh my, that duck is incredible.
Well, best of luck with the tour. The tour is when? Till when?
Tour starts at the end of February, and it goes February, March, April. Then I have 2 months break, and then it's September, October, and it's 100 dates around England, Britain, Abu Dhabi, everywhere.
Well, best of luck with it. It's been a pleasure having you at the house today.
Honestly,
Thank you
this is amazing.
Thank you.
I want your job.
You can have it. It gives me a Saturday morning off. You can have it.
Right, deal.
That's it. That's all we've got time for today. Massive thank you to all my guests, Sebastian Sainsbury, Brian Turner, the Rangoon sisters, and of course, Dom Joly. We'll see you back at the same time next Saturday morning. We'll be joined by more top chefs, other brilliant guests. Until then, take care, stay safe. Thanks for watching, everybody. Bye for now.